guess Ava didn't make it after all.
Meaning what?
I told her, clear as day, what it is I had to do.
And is that why you decided to exclude her?
As if. Ava had her own mission, and she carried it out. I hope you like long stories.
In Kingdom Hearts 3, besides obviously Xigbar revealing himself to be Luxu in disguise, the box reappearing, and the appearance of the foretellers, what is easily, to me, one of the most interesting bits from the epilogue is the lack of appearance of Ava. She is quite literally the only ancient Keyblade Master unaccounted for post-Xehanort's defeat. Luxu has been body hopping for years now, and the other four foretellers traveled from the past to the present day, and the Master is seen in Quadratum with Sora and Kingdom Hearts 3's secret ending, but no sign of Ava. Gula accuses Luxu of intentionally excluding her, but Xigbar denies this, and I think he's telling the truth. One, I don't think Xigbar has any reason to lie at this point, and the first thing he does is look around and comment on Ava's absence in a way that suggests that he was expecting her to arrive. Xigbar does comment that Ava apparently had some kind of mission and carried it out, but doesn't say much else. What could Ava's mission be? I think that by trying to figure that out could help us figure out what happened to Ava. So let's take a look at different clues sprinkled throughout that could tell us what Ava's mission is. First, I think the fact that he used the term mission instead of role, even though they do use the term role in the exact same scene, suggests that what they are referring to is not Ava's role in creating and training the Dandelions. Next, this clearly isn't something the Master had intended for Ava or for Luxu to do, considering that the Master never once suggested that Ava was to do anything other than preparing the Dandelions after the war, after he clearly intended for her to disappear during the war, and he also told Luxu that he would have to continue on his journey alone. Remember, all Ava was asked to do was train the Dandelions, assign the Union leaders, and give the Book of Prophecies and the Master Defender Keyblade to Ephemer, and Luxu was only meant to observe everything after passing down the no-name Keyblade. But Ava not only gave the book and the Keyblade to Brain, and not Ephemer, in the hopes of altering things just from that, she also tells Brain he wasn't meant to receive the book or Keyblade, and she initiates a fight with Luxu despite the Master telling her not to get involved in any battles. And Luxu did a whole lot more than just observe. He told Ava the truth of his role and the Master's plans. He set out the true Dandelion, which he claims he did after interpreting the Master's order his own way. He gets in a fight with Darkness, he goes out of his way to help Brain, Ephemer, and Scold, and I believe all of these instances are part of a mission that Luxu started to get his ideal outcome with battling Darkness, and it all starts with Ava. I think that Ava and Luxu meeting before the war was more than just Ava confronting Luxu about his actions. When Ava first meets up with him, she asks him what he is doing, and Luxu, in a very aloof fashion, tells her, and realizing she wouldn't let up on the questions till she gets clear, concise answers, reluctantly tells her, showing that he would have preferred to keep Ava in the dark. But he doesn't just tell her the answer to her question, he tells her everything. His role, what is going on, and the Master's intentions. Luxu probably could have gotten away with just telling Ava that he needed to observe all the fights and pass the Keyblade so the Master can write down everything in the Book of Prophecies, and Luxu could have lied about anything else, especially involving the Master. We know that Luxu was not above lying and deceiving to achieve a goal of his, but he didn't. and I think there's a good reason for him to do this. In the moment he chose to let Ava know the entirety of his plan or mission, Ava could only be useful to his mission if she is aware of everything, which is why Ava had the reaction she did to hearing all of what Luxu had to say. And keep in mind, we don't even see everything that he says to her, so there's a good chance Ava learned the full truth. How her and the other foretellers were more or less scapegoats for the darkness to die, how the master planned to have the world be destroyed from the start, and how despite Luxu and the master having the knowledge, power, and positions to help save everyone, they refused to. This would explain Ava's immediate reaction to all this, as she more or less denies or rejects everything Luxu says and accuses him of twisting everything the master said for his own benefit, which would explain why Ava attacked Luxu, as it was this swing of the Keyblade which caused the bells to toll, which did signal the start of the Keyblade War. It was probably at this point that Ava realized what she just did, and instead of trying to prevent the war, she initiates it. Luxu could have used this as an opportunity to give her a mission to try and achieve what they want. Now we have to wonder, what was Ava's mission? I was stuck on this for actual weeks. Yes, Ava has been more or less MIA since the Keyblade War, and there isn't any hint of where she is, but it's because there's no hint or indication of her location, which makes it so hard to make an educated guess on what she is doing. But after a while, I think I pinpointed an accurate guess of what Ava has been doing and where she is. I think after recruiting the Union leaders and initiating the start of the war, she teams up with Luxu after being informed of everything. After teaming up with Luxu, she would make her way to Unreality. I think the fact that there hasn't been any hint of her appearing anywhere else during Kingdom Hearts Union Cross is a big sign of that, as Ava would be the only one to not continue fighting in the Keyblade War. I believe this is all connected to Ava's true mission, which is to trap darkness in Unreality. Just follow me on this one. Ava disappeared around the time of the Keyblade War, and since then, no one had heard a trace from her at all. The only other character who was similar to Ava was the Master, who we know has made his way to Unreality. Yes, the other foretellers died and were resurrected in Kingdom Hearts 3, but I don't think Ava received the same treatment and didn't die, because Luxu talks about her mission as if she had a task to complete after the war. We can guess Luxu was expecting her to arrive in the Keyblade graveyard with the other foretellers, as he was looking around for her and tells Gula that he didn't exclude her. We also need to consider that if Ava is going to reappear around the time when the foretellers reappear, which is post Kingdom Hearts 3, we would need to think about how exactly she would be jumping forward in time, since she didn't die like the rest. However, the only way she could jump forward is with the lifeboats. But let's take a look real quick at who used the lifeboats. Ephemer, Skuld, Elrena, Laurium, Ventus, Maleficent, and the true Dandelion. All 7 were used in the real world, and I'm not fully convinced Ava used the one left in the data world. That could only mean one thing, that Ava is the true Dandelion. So I think Ava is currently occupied with something, and since we can figure she is in Unreality due to the lack of evidence or clues on her whereabouts, that kind of narrows down who she is preoccupied with. Strelitzia and Brain are 2 people who are easily the most likely, I find anyway, to be helping Ava in Unreality. Firstly, based on Brain's conversation with Ava when she recruited him, his mannerisms suggested that Ava at the very least gave him some insight on her plan. And Strelitzia? Well, we know Strelitzia is in Unreality thanks to the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. We know based on her wording that she was taken to Unreality after death due to it being treated as an afterlife. But I think there's more to it than that. But for now, I want to focus on Brain, See, the thing about Brain is it's very hard to pinpoint what exactly happened to him. The last time we see him is in Scala at Kylum, and we know he will appear in Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, so we could get an answer for him during that game, but I was curious about something. Remember what Yen Sid said about Unreality? That apparently the ancient Keyblade Masters had records of jumping world lines like that? We know he doesn't mean the foretellers. They jump to the present from the past. So he could only mean the Keyblade Masters in Scala. Also, remember what the opening to Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer talks about. Jumping into different worlds like world lines. And the narrator for that is Sigurd. Someone we know was living in that era of Keyblade Masters. And we can even see him talking to Brain. I suspect that Sigurd or someone told Brain how to jump world lines and had him cross over into Unreality. It adds up. That would explain why Ericus answered the way he did when Baldr asked about his grandfather. No one could know what happened to Brain since he jumped world lines. Hell, I say Ericus probably knows his grandfather was there, but couldn't risk anyone knowing as he didn't know if there were any darkness beings or someone who wasn't supposed to know be listening. Now moving on to Strelitzia, I find it kind of interesting that she was brought over to Unreality. An ancient Keyblade wielder who was supposed to be a unit leader being sent to Unreality. Wouldn't it have made more sense for her to appear in the final world instead? She died, but had regrets in the world, which does fit the bill for the final world. But I don't think she naturally went there. I think someone dragged Strelitzia over to Unreality, but who? And for what reason? Remember how I talked about Ava being in Unreality? I think that makes her a likely candidate for someone who brought Strelitzia over to Unreality.
And realistically, she probably jumped world lines to Unreality after the war. That would keep her from being killed during the war and would also explain her disappearance and inability to arrive at the Keyblade Graveyard. She's still in Unreality, but then this begs the question. What was she doing in Unreality? I think this relates back to what Xigbar had mentioned in the epilogue to Kingdom Hearts 3.
I guess Ava didn't make it after all.
Meaning what?
I told her, clear as day, what it is I had to do.
And is that why you decided to exclude her?
As if Ava had her own mission, and she carried it out.
Notice how he said mission, not role, meaning her absence had nothing to do with her role of recruiting the Dandelions. But what is her mission? I think it's a mission regarding darkness in Unreality, but in order to make sense of this, I have to talk about Luxu. Luxu is definitely the mastermind if there is a grand plan here. Luxu set all the events for this mission in motion. What is Luxu's mission? For him and Ava to create a neutral battleground for the final fight with darkness. Luxu and Ava probably believe that the best way to get rid of darkness is to destroy it in a place that's lacking darkness. Think of it like this. Darkness did so well to thrive because of the darkness of the world and other people. To be clear, they probably could still possess the other people in Unreality in that kind of environment, but their plans to infect and spread darkness won't work since it relies on the darkness of other people and the worlds itself. So Luxu and Ava are probably leaving the darkness in a world they can't infect, which will buy them a lot of time for something or someone to come about and help end the fight. I think they are waiting for the Dandelions to come about. The Dandelions were the ones who were stated to sow seeds of light in the future, and we know the Dandelions are still alive since we see them become Dream Eaters, the very same Dream Eaters that we use in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. The Dandelions have just been waiting in a state of sleep in Data Daybreak Town after its destruction. Remember, the Dandelions were considered to be the most exceptional Keyblade wielders of their time, so it makes sense to wait for them to come to Unreality. Now, I know this brings up the question, Wouldn't darkness be able to track Ava and kill her? Not necessarily. Going back to what I was mentioning about Ava, yes, Ava does have a Keyblade, which could be treated as a homing beacon for darkness, but back in Kingdom Hearts 1, they did show that it is indeed possible to conceal your Keyblade's presence from darkness. So where does that leave Ava, the Dandelions, and Luxu? It leaves Luxu with the Foretellers in Reality, the Dandelions and Data Daybreak Town, which can serve as a bridge between reality and unreality, and it leaves Ava in Unreality. But only one problem. All of the paths are locked. Ephemer and our character lock the entrance between Unreality and Data Daybreak Town, and the entrance between Data Daybreak Town and Daybreak Town have been locked since its destruction and reformation into Scala at Kylum. But there is a fix for this. Luxu and Ava would just need 2 people to help finalize their plan. It's no doubt that Sora being in Unreality now and Kairi having a task related to Unreality are big things, especially when we consider everything we had talked about before. Sora and Kairi are without a doubt going to be big players in the events to come involving darkness in Unreality, but what we need to figure out is what is their purpose. When looking at Kairi, I think she is just the kind of player that Ava and the others are looking for. Kairi is not only a Keyblade wielder, but she is a Princess of Heart. Remember, the pure light from the princesses are actually light fragments of the original Keyblade. Having a strong pure light like that could definitely be something Ava would see as useful for getting rid of darkness. Kairi was also the one who was able to establish some sort of actual connection between reality and unreality. Before, there was no real instance of a character being able to connect to someone between reality and unreality. The closest we got is Ephemer contacting us in the realm of Unchained, but even then it only happened briefly in a vague dream and we couldn't really make sense of it. Kairi, through her connection, was able to bring Sora from Unreality to the real world in her dreams and be able to fight Xehanort on her behalf. I think Xehanort gave us a clue though. Kairi's abilities as a Princess of Heart have the ability to resonate with Keyblade wielders and make pathways towards them that are otherwise thought to be impossible. Seeing as Kairi was able to make her way to Destiny Islands following Sora and Riku despite never being there, yes, I know Aqua's spell is the reason for this, but this doesn't disprove my point since Aqua's spell is still in effect for Kairi and bring her light to the light of one of her protectors to keep her safe. So in all honesty, Aqua's spell could have something to do with Sora showing up to help Kairi in Melody of Memory. Next we need to discuss Sora though. Firstly, I think Sora was meant to do 2 major things. Firstly, he was supposed to make his way to Unreality, thereby giving other people, namely Keyblade wielders, the opportunity to make their way to Unreality. Without Sora abusing the power of waking, there would have been no way for Sora to make his way there. Next thing is that Sora was supposed to wake up the Dandelions. See, there was something I thought about. I was thinking about what Sora did in order to revive Kairi. Sora had to establish enough connections to connect the broken pieces of Kairi's heart. And when he established it, we see him go through a portal. It's not really known where he is right here, but we do see him connect to a bunch of different stars, and we all know in Kingdom Hearts, stars represent hearts. Yes, the connections we directly see are of Riku and the other Guardians, but we can see that there are a ton of different connections being made here. I'm inclined to believe that Sora for sure made some sort of connection to the Dandelions since we do know that they are still alive. I think it also helps that Sora had some sort of pre-established connection to the Dandelions indirectly due to him connecting with Ephemer in that whole Union Cross thing in Kingdom Hearts 3. And his connection with the Dream Eaters could also help him connect with the Dandelions since the Dream Eaters are just the Dandelions mixed with their spirits. So Sora could have unintentionally connected with them and woke them up in the data world. But of course, in order to get them to Unreality, the path needs to be unlocked from both sides. Since the path to both reality and unreality from Data Daybreak Town needs to be unlocked from both sides, Sora waking up the Dandelions and ending up in Unreality is actually perfect. Remember, the passage between Data Daybreak Town and Unreality was locked by us and Ephemer, and the destruction of Data Daybreak Town locked it from the inside to the real world, and the world being changed to Scarlet Kylum locked the path in the real world. However, with Sora now in Unreality and having woken up the Dandelions, he can unlock the path from Unreality to the Dandelions, and the Dandelions can unlock from their side while also opening up the path back from Data Daybreak Town to the real world, with Mickey currently trying to open a path from his end in reality. This will be the Dandelion's path to Unreality. However, this will also allow the 4 Darknesses trapped in Game Central Station to make their way to Quadratum. But this will be what the Master wants. Since the math is adding up, the 4 Darknesses that were trapped will make their way there. Ventus will undoubtedly bring his darkness to Unreality looking for Sora, and the Master will definitely bring the 7 meant for him and his students there as well. This is 12 of the 13, so it looks like a red carpet is being made to bring the final showdown to Unreality, to trap the darkness and the Dandelions, the Master, the Foretellers, and Sora in Unreality, and have the darkness back into a corner so everyone can wipe them out. This will result in what seems like the Master is trying to build a final war between light and darkness on completely neutral ground.